In winter, all of that cold, moisture, and salt can really damage your bike. So it may be a good idea to give your fair weather bike a break until spring and build up a dedicated winter beater. The type of bike that you use for your winter beater depends on how severe your winters are, but here's why fixed gear bikes make great winter beaters and why one might be right for you. For winter durability with fair weather ride quality, check out our channel sponsor Wabi Cycles, linked at the top of the description. What's up? I'm Zach Gallardo. Life is short, but don't make it shorter. So ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous, and subscribe for more fixed gear videos just like this one every Thursday and Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific. But before we get into fixed gear winter beaters, first let's define a beater, because everybody has a different definition and price range for what makes a good beater bike. Something that we can all agree on is that a beater bike is one that you don't really care about if something bad happens to it, whether that's damage or theft. So here's why fixed gears make great winter beaters. It really comes down to its simplicity and reliability. Winter is very rough on bikes, and it can turn your ride into a crunchy, unreliable mess in very little time. Every additional component that's added to a bike adds an additional step to maintenance and adds an additional layer that can go wrong when you're out riding. And the last thing that you want in winter is having to pull over to the side of the road to fix your bike in the cold, dark, rain, and snow. But fixed gears are the simplest form of bike that you can ride, and therefore the most reliable. At its very purest, every single component on a fixed gear is there specifically for the purpose of making you go. They're more reliable in riding because they have the simplest and most direct drivetrain, which have less components that need to be maintained or can fail. There are exactly 0 derailleurs that need tuning and adjusting. At the very most on a fixed gear, you'll have 2 cables that need to be maintained, and those are the brake cables. And you can have as little as 0 cables and braking components. Because fixed gears are so simple and low maintenance, they're a lot easier to maintain at an acceptable ride quality throughout winter compared to a geared bike. Of course, the best and the proper maintenance that you can do is to give your bike a good wipe down and cleaning and re-lubricating after every single ride you do out in the elements. But in winter, let's be real. Depending on how severe your winters are, you could be doing that up to after every single ride, and ain't nobody got time for that. For time's sake, maintenance just has to slip in the winter. Thankfully, with fixed gear bikes, you really only need to do 2 things, which is 1, keep the drivetrain clean and lubricated, and 2, keep the tires at an appropriate pressure. If you just do these 2 things, your fixed gear will run pretty dang smoothly throughout winter. And that simplicity and low maintenance makes fixed gears very cost effective. If you're diligent, have some bike mechanic skills, and you're clever about where you shop for your bike, you can get a pretty reliable beater between $100 to $200 US. And no matter how you cut it, that's a pretty good investment to keep you on a bike and to keep your nice bike nice throughout winter. But with fixed gears, you may not even have to get a dedicated beater bike. Because of fixed gear simplicity, even if you ride your fair weather bike throughout winter, only a few key components will need to be replaced come spring. Namely, your drivetrain, which is your cog, chainring, and chain. And if you use brakes, you may also want to replace the braking surfaces, which most likely means whichever rim has a brake. But other than your drivetrain and braking surfaces, that's it. You can easily swap out those components before the bad weather hits you to beaterfy your bike. And then you can swap back to your nicer components come spring. So you can just take an hour to replace those few components, and then you don't even need to build a completely separate bike for winter commuting, making fixed gears really time and cost effective. With all the moisture and salt that your bike is likely to be exposed to during the winter, derailleurs, brakes, cables all get worn out pretty quickly. But with fixed gears, a lot of those are just a non-issue because those components aren't there. That means you can do less maintenance and have a smoother riding bike throughout winter. But fixed gears don't make the perfect winter beaters though. With all that simplicity also comes a fair set of limitations. Number 1 being tire clearance. Tires are, in my eyes, the most important component on a bike, since they determine your flat protection and, by extension, the likelihood that you'll be stuck on the side of the road with stiff, cold fingers trying to fix a flat. Particularly in winter though, they also greatly affect your safety. Wide tires run at lower pressures, or knobby or studded tires give you a lot more traction compared to slick tires, which will make you safer on those slippery winter road conditions. On the majority of fixed gears though, the biggest tire that you can fit will maybe be a 25C to 28C slick tire. Fixed gears are also limited in the second most important commuting component, which in my eyes are fenders. Fenders keep you and your bike dry, and your bike will stay cleaner after your rides, meaning less maintenance time. But most fixed gears lack the clearance for full fenders, so you'll have to come up with another solution, whether that's temporary fenders or clip-on fenders. Tire clearance and fender clearance can be a bit limited in terms of options for a fixed gear winter commuter, but you still do have options, namely in fixed gear or single speed cyclocross bikes. And speaking of fixed and single speed cyclocross bikes, our channel sponsor's bike, the Wabi Thunder, is made out of Reynolds 725 steel that is light and lively and ED coated inside and out for rust resistance. It also has clearance for 40+ millimeter tires, meaning that whatever tire you want to use, whether that's a knobby cross tire or a studded winter tire, you'll most likely be able to fit it on the Wabi Thunder. And all of that clearance gives you the option to run full fenders. Wabis are also spec'd with seal bearing components that are practically maintenance free, meaning you can have a buttery smooth bike all throughout winter. Check out our channel sponsor, Wabi Cycles, linked at the top of the description. Now back to the video. Another area that fixed gears are limited for winter are disc brakes. One of the most costly maintenance expenses that racks up pretty easily during winter is having to replace your braking surfaces, namely if you're riding on rim brakes. Disc brakes significantly cut down the cost, since all you have to do is replace a disc rotor as opposed to an entire rim, which usually means having to replace the entire wheel. Options for fixed gear bikes with front disc brakes are pretty limited, making it harder to benefit from disc brakes during the winter. But if you are skilled and confident, and to an extent foolish enough, you can ride brakeless, which will only wear out the rear tire and will be the most cost-effective option, assuming you don't skid like a madman. So who are fixed gear beater bikes for? Well, fixed gear's simplicity makes them the most reliable, the most low maintenance forms of bikes. And because of that, you're likely to have a much nicer ride quality with lower maintenance, and because they have less parts, they are a lot more cost effective. But if you can make those sacrifices to reap those benefits, then you may want to consider getting a fixed gear beater bike for this winter. Question of the day: what is your experience with riding a fixed gear bike throughout the winter? Let me know in the comments. And don't watch this upcoming video if you haven't ridden your bike yet today. Instead, ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous.